Welcome to the Tavernside Chats with Will.
3, 2, 1. Hello, one and all. Welcome back to the Tavern. I'm your Tavernkeeper Will, and we have an amazing guest today. But before we do that, go ahead and check out the towel section down below. You can find a link to our Discord server, which is always open. That, and on top of that as well, you can find a link to our merch store as well, with new items coming constantly there. We have a wonderful episode here today. Apologies for my voice if it sounds huskier than usual. I am sick. The flu that's going around has hit me too now, and so we're gonna get through this one. We have a wonderful guest here today from the Anime Void YouTube channel. If you're a fan of all things writing, anime, or character creation wise, go ahead and go check him out. We are here today with Brian. Brian, how are you doing today?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing quite fine. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited for this.
Yes, I have to say I've been a huge fan of your channel for the longest time. I found it through through being a fan of the Fate series and trying to see if there was any people who made fan servant content on YouTube, and so I found you, and I've been a huge fan ever since.
Genuinely, that means so much to me. You don't understand. It warms my heart.
It's truly weird as a creator to hear someone be like, hey, I respect your work, and you're like, oh, the thing that I have the most insecurities about, you're a fan of that? I don't know how to take that.
Yeah, basically, because, obviously, I do this stuff to, obviously, I want it to be successful, but at the same time, I mostly just do it because I have these ideas and I want to put them into something, and that's what this medium is. And it's like, if someone, so long as I'm happy with it, that was kind of the goal. So to find that other people are really happy with it, it just like, it freaks me out a bit.
Oh yeah, imposter syndrome is truly a bitch. It is one of the worst things to like try and unlearn from yourself.
Yeah, it really does. It's a wild swing between, I will admit I do sometimes have an ego, and then that just, but yeah, the wild swing between that and imposter syndrome does get to me quite a bit, but again, it at the end of the day, it means so much for everyone that subscribes to my channel, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've not checked them out, if you're a huge fan of any type of anime work, you've done a bunch of stuff in the past talking about mostly the Fate franchise, but Soul Eater, Fate, the Ruby series. You did a really great video on Lord of the Rings, Legend of the Rohirrim. Check Brian out. He does some really good writing stuff and really good like thought process of how something is created and breaking down these stories. But when it comes to fundamentally at the core, this is a tabletop games channel. Do you have much of a history with tabletop games? And if so, how did you get into the hobby?
I do have a little bit. Actually, I'm part of a Pathfinder campaign right now. My interest, I would say, probably started around in college. Just like a vague interest, and then I started listening to the Adventure Zone Balance arc. I was really into that. It got me really into D&D, so I started one campaign with my friends, fizzled out, and just been kind of bouncing around since there to leading to the campaign I'm in now.
Nice. Yeah, friend of the channel, Maddie, will be very happy to hear that. She's number one Pathfinder Defender. Shout out to you, Maddie, there. I played it once at a convention, and I truly, in the middle of, a combat thing, I'm like, oh, this is a great system.
Oh, it is fun with the weird things that you can do in that system with all the little bits and pieces to customize. Like, D&D is great because it's very straightforward, and I still love D&D, but Pathfinder is just like, when you want to get really wacky with it, you play Pathfinder.
It's a very crunchy system in that regard, but also, I'm someone who like enjoys like very weird nitty gritty, like planning out small little details and like trying to find combos of what you can do with certain actions. And so when I was at the con, when I played like I stepped into a game of Pathfinder, I'm like, oh, I see why people enjoy this.
Oh yeah, like right now I'm playing Barbarian, and they've actually updated that relatively recently to be more tanky, like an actual tank. So I'm leaning into that more, while I have a friend who has a rifleman character and does like one shot, one kill stuff that does insane amounts of damage. And like not even just like burst damage, just like they can be pretty regular that he gets these shots off. So it's kind of crazy. Like I'm the front line soaking up all the damage, and he's in the back, and then blows a guy's heads off in 2 turns.
That's so cool. Truly, that is very similar to the character that I'm playing in our current campaign right now, called Hunter, who I have found a way to basically, he's just a living shadow, and I have gotten off like insane single turn damage. Like I think I think I got like 45 damage in 1 turn, and we are level like 5 currently, or at least when I was still playing before I had to take a short sabbatical.
Yeah, it's always so much fun to get those big numbers.
Yeah, the big numbers are very fun. When it comes to writing, because your channel is very much focused around kind of the writing aspect, what would you say some of your biggest creative influences are?
Easily my top 2 biggest influences for creativity are J.R.R. Tolkien and Jim Henson.
Oh, Jim Henson. I knew I liked your channel for a reason. Jim Henson is one of my greatest creative icons I try to aspire towards.
Same, and it does, I do have to come like to moments where I just like, I know I am falling short of them. Like, it's not so much that it's like I ever want to be as great as them. Like, obviously, I think everyone would, but I have to understand like where I'm at. But I also see those moments in myself where I'm just like, I'm not meeting my way to being more like them, and it's like those times that are when I just like really try to buckle down and just like do more of what I like to do, to be more creative, because these 2 were insane levels of creative, and they put the work into it. And that's the main thing that I feel like I don't always do, is I don't always put the work that I should put into it.
One of my favorite stories about like J.R.R. Tolkien is if he got to a place, like when he was writing Fellowship of the Ring for the first time. I don't know if this story is apocryphal or not, but if he got to a part of the story that he wasn't satisfied with, he would just go back to the original start of the story, scrap everything, and rewrite it by hand. And like there was like some big changes that got made in those rewrites. Like, if I remember right, the Tom Bombadil stuff is like one place that he rewrote a lot, and elves as well, because he was originally going to call them gnomes.
Elves, I don't remember that one. I do know the whole thing about like when he was writing Lord of the Rings, and he got to a point where it's just like, he connected it to the Hobbit, because like originally when he started it, they weren't connected. And so he had to like rewrite parts of Riddles in the Dark to connect the ring to the Lord of the Rings, because that just like just through the creative process, he just linked the 2 together, and then it went from there and joined the bigger universe.
Yeah, I truly kind of when it comes to those 2, what do you like aspire about them, on top of like the fact that they're people who never stop creating and working on their crafts in their life?
So with J.R.R. Tolkien, it's the world building aspect, because this man was kind of crazy, because he never originally set out to make a full fantasy world. He was just making a setting for his actual hobby, which was making languages. He just wanted a setting for the languages to exist in, and then we have all of Middle-earth, the Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, everything came from just wanting to create a language, and that just, to me, is the level of dedication and pure insanity that I think every creative person should have somewhere inside of them. And then for Jim Henson, it's just like the way he saw the world, just like the actual world, like he was able to see these things, see how they could be used in multiple different ways. Like he revolutionized puppetry on television using what existed. Like he took the medium of television and just made it his own. And I just kind of want to be able to do something even close to that, just being able to take the things that I have available to me now and be able to use them to the most of their abilities just by them existing.
Yeah. That's honestly a really, like, kind of aspirational goal there. I mean, Jim Henson's also, like, one of my favorite creators of all time. How he, like you kind of talk about how he viewed the world, and, like, how, like, he saw his materials and his, like, mediums as ways that he could use to, like, fundamentally change things. I mean, like, we would not have, like, we were watching The Labyrinth in the film club that I host at my the school that I teach at, and I was pointing out to the students, like, they made some of the most impressive and technologically advanced animatronics for their time. Like, I showed the kids, like, Hoggle is a animatronic face on, like, a person of short stature, like, body there. Like, that level of digital puppeteering, because that is giving, like, the animatronic performers there are giving a A+ acting performance on the level of, like, David Bowie in the movie.
Oh, yeah, it's just being able to say, oh, we need this thing, okay, we'll just make it. Yeah. It's like, I don't ever expect myself to get to that level just based on how technology is, and, like, it's not really my field, but just, like, the gumption to do that is what I'm really hoping to achieve.
That's wonderful. And when it comes to, like, your writing process, in your opinion, what do you think is, like, the hallmark of a good story when it comes to if you are writing or sitting down to work on something?
My main goal and my main desire from any story is to make the characters feel real. And I don't mean like that in, like, they are realistic sense. Just like you are able to relate to them, you are able to understand them. Like Kermit the Frog, that's a pile of felt, but I see Kermit on the screen and I'm just like, that's Kermit. That's an actual person. Like, not the person puppeteering, but Kermit. It's something like that. It's like, obviously I know they're not real, so it's not like a delusional sense of believing they're real, but, like, being able to, it's like, yes, given the context of the setting, the situation, and the character, I fully believe things play out.
I think that, like, that level of verisimilitude is, like, really, I mean, I think that's also important for, like, D&D games as well. Like, when you're playing a character either from a DM or a player perspective, you want to at least make sure, like, the things that the characters are doing feel realistic to who they are, even.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's about the disconnect when a character is, like, well, out of character. Mm-hmm. It has to be consistent, and even if the character is acting different, it does have to be for an ultimate reason. You can't break that sequence.
Mm-hmm. Because I think, like, that's something that an audience is able to tell very easily, is when something is out of character or just does, like, then the actions don't necessarily make sense there. Like, again, using using the example of like Kermit the Frog, for example, like that's why I think a lot of people don't like the new voice of Kermit, because it doesn't feel like, no shade to Matt Vogel, but it doesn't feel like the Whitmire or the original Jim Henson voice in that regard.
Yeah, I would, and like as you said, no shade to Matt Vogel. He's a very talented individual, but at the end of the day, I can't say he sounds like Kermit, where it's just like that's where it breaks it.
Yeah, and like I think if you were playing in the campaign and like when your character suddenly did something so out of character, it's a thing where people are immediately going to be able to recognize that. Or even like watching a TV show or anything like that. Like people can tell when, like, I think there's a level thing, like people respect these characters, or like there's a level of time investment. And so like that's a very key part of storytelling, is like making sure you are keeping things consistent.
Oh yeah, and again, it's like, technically speaking, it is a very low bar to be a good story, but at the end of the day, it's probably like the most important thing to be a good story.
Yeah, I mean, it's like using a baking recipe. Like if you add too much salt into something, or if like it's gonna be something that people are immediately able to recognize, and it's immediately going to turn people off. Which I think, again, like, yeah, any form of that, especially tying into character creation as well. So your channel primarily, a lot of what you do on there is you take characters from, you will take either pre-existing settings and make characters inspired off of those from your fan servant series, making it a fan servant for the Freight franchise for every class there, to your Ruby Huntress series as well. For the people who might not know, because for being a very well-known anime, I realized going in, some people might not know the Fate franchise, and we're going to be talking about it a lot. Would you mind giving a short summary to the audience of what it's about?
Oh, give me an impossible task. Let's go. So, the Fate series is basically baseline. Like, if you're a Fate fan, what I'm about to say is extremely, extremely simplified. But what you have is a group of 7 mages. Usually, sometimes they're not as magical as others. And they get thrown into essentially a battle royale where they have to summon 7 heroic spirits, people throughout history that are important, like, say, Cú Chulainn from Ireland, or King Arthur from Arthurian legend, obviously. Stuff like that. And they are assigned a certain class that denotes what they can do, like, do they wield a sword, do they have a spear, do they do magic? And then they have to fight to the death, and then the last master and servant pairing standing gets a wish from the Holy Grail. And across all of the series, that usually doesn't happen as straightforward as I explained it, but that is the premise that it starts out with.
Yeah, it is somewhat complicated from the outside. If this sounds interesting to you, I will probably say something controversial, because fundamentally, as a Fate fan, there is like everyone disagrees on where to start. I would really just find a whichever one looks coolest to you, and then start there. Or if there's like a character that you've seen, like if you've seen the like pink-haired femboy character Astolfo online, he comes from Apocrypha. Or if you've that one is a good one to begin with, or Zero as well. It's a very complicated series, but one near and dear to my heart.
Yes, indeed. As fair warning, since you did not say start with Fate Stay Night, prepare for that blowback, because that's going to happen.
Yeah. I will. Yeah, I will probably have someone will have my head for that. I personally think Zero is the better starting point, but that's also, I know people will find that as a very controversial statement.
From me, the you can either start with Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, the Ufotable version, or Fate Zero. One of those two, then watch the other, then go from there.
Yeah.
That's like how I would recommend it. Some people would recommend the starting off with the visual novel, and I do believe everyone who's a Fate fan should read the visual novel eventually, but starting there is insane. People don't have 80 hours just to drop to read it.
I think if I remember right, the visual novel, if you're just reading one route, because there's 3 of them, it is longer than the entire Harry Potter series. Like, someone did the math of just if you're reading one route.
Yeah, the 80 hours I just dropped was really just for one route.
Yeah, it is kind of insane. It's like, again, really great writing. So Fate as a franchise is like 20% horny nonsense, like 60% decent writing that you have to get through, and 20% of the most heartbreaking, truly inspirational, indomitable human will of the spirit type stuff that you will ever read.
Yes, it is a fantastically wacky series that just goes through a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's famously the series that turned King Arthur into a woman as like one of their key main characters there.
Yes, face of the franchise, and she is amazing. And controversial take, I am beyond excited that she finally got the Grand Saber treatment that she deserved.
She should have been Grand Saber from the beginning, and like as soon as they announced Grand Saber, I think I truly knew it was going to be her. I had a couple friends being like, "There's no way it's going to be her. They don't care about Artoria enough to do that." My guess is that it was going to be like regular Artoria, and it kind of did one step above, and they made the Lord Logris version of the character. But again, it was always going to be Artoria, in my opinion.
According to interviews, apparently the voice lines and everything were recorded at the beginning of the game, so yeah, she was literally Grand Saber from the very start.
Yeah, that makes sense. In your video on character creation, though, you kind of go through because if you've not watched another great video on your channel is kind of how your version, kind of walking through your character creations and processes and how you go about making characters that are either original or for a specific franchise there. One of your key points there is you talk about how characters are always changing. How do you think that applies to very open and nebulous forms of storytelling like D&D?
So I think with D&D or any tabletop really, that's where you get the most raw version of what I mean by your characters change all the time. Mostly if you're really in tune with the character. If you're just kind of have a conduit character to just be yourself, you don't really get that. But if you have a character that's different from yourself, you will feel them change in real time, especially since you have a DM that is giving you outside stimulus for your character to react to. So you have to, in that moment, decide what my character is going to do and how they evolve throughout the course of the campaign. You will feel that change more readily than just writing a character on your own, which of course does change, but it's just the feel is different.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I truly think that I have a huge theater background. I truly think that D&D is one of the most intense forms of improv if you're someone who is very invested in playing your current character, because again, there's that saying, acting is reacting, and most of what you're doing in D&D is reacting to the world that your DM sets up for you and kind of seeing all the different facets of the character and how they react to all these different scenarios that they are put through.
Yeah, it's and it's also that kind of thing where you have to also be aware of how much and in what way you want your character to change. Because obviously you have to be prepared to have your character to change, because that's just the nature of existing. But, like, for example, with the campaign I'm currently in, I started off with a paladin that really didn't mesh with the setting, and I would have to force changes onto her in order for her to work with it. So I instead decided to just change the character to better fit the dynamic and the situation. So that's also like the thing you also have to be aware of. Is just like, yeah, your character's going to naturally change, but you have to force them to change if you don't want to. You have to talk with your DM and party members about that, and sometimes you're just going to have to swap out characters.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any shame in changing characters if there's, like, you don't, especially if it doesn't, like, fit the world. Like, that is one thing as a DM that I am, like, not, I think strict is a hard word to use, but also, like, if you're playing in a certain setting, you need to have this character that you are writing fit the setting that they're from. Like, there's a great example in the video. Like, if you're making a My Hero Academia character, you can't have their quirk being able to summon, like, a godly angel, because that doesn't feel like it fits the setting there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, everything has its place, and sometimes you're just going to have to work to make sure that it fits that place. And that also means that sometimes you're just going to have to make a different piece or use a different playset.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a level where a character can change too much to the point where, like, they don't feel, like, realistic to the person that you started out writing as? Or do you see that as a negative or a positive thing to see how much a character can change before they, like, how much they can bend before they break?
So that is very interesting, and it does go back to the thing of when it's inconsistent, like we were talking about before with how a character acts out of character. But there is a thing where, let's use Vegeta or Prince Zuko as examples. We look at the start of the series for both those characters. They are so wildly different from how they end up from how they started. But the key thing is that the core center of their character remains consistent. And as we see how the narrative progresses around them, the changes make sense and are in line with those core features, Vegeta with his pride and Zuko with his honor.
Yeah. I think that it's like, I love that idea of, like, you can have them change a lot in their motivations, but there still needs to be some kind of core or some kind of idea at the center that they are changing around. I will admit I've never seen Dragon Ball or Avatar: The Last Airbender, but that's one thing that everyone's like, how have you not seen Avatar? Somehow it escaped me.
Out of the two, definitely watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love Dragon Ball with all my heart, but if I have to choose one of them to recommend, it's Avatar.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that. Yeah. I've had a friend try to convince me to watch Dragon Ball for a while, and most of my understanding of Dragon Ball comes from, like, kind of pop culture notion of, like, people screaming for 30 minutes, and then the fight takes 50 episodes.
Yeah, that background information, that was a lot of editorial stuff with the manga coming out, the anime happening, where it's just like, yeah, to stretch things out a lot, and re-releases of the anime definitely helped that. Like Dragon Ball Z Kai definitely helped with that.
That's good. I mean, I think, like, that's absolutely not their fault, I think, because, again, they didn't know what's coming out next, and so they were kind of playing catch up a little bit, or trying to stretch things out before the next one came out.
Yeah, whereas probably should have waited a bit before starting the anime if that was the case.
Also, in your video about kind of making characters, you gotta talk about how details are very important for character creation. How do you include the line of including just enough detail, but without doing too much as well? Because this is, I think, a thing that a lot of writers struggle with, of kind of using your example of Tolkien as well. Tolkien is a phenomenal world builder, but also that's one of the things people make fun about him the most, is how detailed and insanely complex his worlds are, where even like 3-second background characters have such deep, like, rich, complex inner worlds.
So, okay, at first I thought you were talking about physical detail, which was going to be a completely different answer, but you were talking about, like, grand scope detail, so...
It can be truly either one. It can be physical detail or, like, character detail.
I'll cover both, because in terms of character detail, I don't think there's necessarily a limit. It depends on how much you really want to share, but I don't think there's ever such a thing as giving a character too much grand scope detail. But also, that's me speaking as someone who... Tom Bombadil is my favorite character in Lord of the Rings, and he... objectively speaking, is a completely pointless character. He exists only to prove that the world is big and does nothing else for the narrative.
I truly wonder if you're doing like Lord of the Rings as a D&D campaign, Tom Bombadil was absolutely a player character that he wanted to include in the background of like, just like as an homage to a previous campaign. That, or I would say Gollum as well.
Yeah, well, Gollum at least was plot relevant, but
yeah, Gollum had a plot.
Again, Tom Bombadil exists.
Really likes Tom Bombadil, but honestly, I think that this might be a hot take of mine. I don't think that there's a problem with including characters that are irrelevant but that you like, because in some regards, they can be used to flesh out the world in some ways.
Exactly, but it gets back to the thing of like, yeah, it only exists to flesh out the world, make it bigger, add more depth to everything. That is superfluous detail, and it doesn't actually hurt anything. It comes down to personal preference at that point. But in terms of like world building detail, there's no such thing as too much, because that's just kind of how the world is. It's filled with details. There are so many things happening in the wider world that you do not know is happening, and just being shown it happening doesn't really change anything, but you could like it or you could not like it, and that's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is with physical detail, there is a limit of you're doing too much.
Yeah.
And for me, that comes down to where does the detail actually explain anything about the character? Like, yeah, some things can just be cool on the character, but there's a ratio balance that you have to match with that. It's just like, yeah, the character might just like this design, and that's why it's on their character. But at what point is it that you're having too much superfluous detail on the physical character, and it's making all of the story around it, minus all details on the character inform you about what the character is, who the character is.
Absolutely. Has there ever... you work with a lot of artists for your YouTube channel. Has there ever been times where you had to cut out details that you wanted to include because you realized they weren't entirely important?
Yes, there actually have been. It usually comes down to... It's an interesting thing, because like I make these documents with like all these descriptions and visual references for the artist, and sometimes when I get the sketch and some things may be forgotten about or just not added or changed slightly, and when I see the sketch, I'm just like, you know what, I like this better. And then like they kind of like enforce me. It's like, okay, what I added didn't matter.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of the collaborative process too. Is working with other people as well. Especially, I mean, in a D&D setting, it is kind of like absolutely necessary because you can't exactly play one-on-one D&D. But like how seeing your characters interpreted through other people's lenses is a phenomenal way to see how like what is actually important for you versus what can be left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the character that I have gotten the most art of, who I've never shown the channel because they are my Pathfinder character, is like a little dragon girl, and I have so many different artists do arts of her, and they'll miss some details. Some details I find are important, like she has like scales on her cheek, and so like I want to keep the scales on her cheek, but she also has scales on her shoulders, and I'm just like, I can take it or leave it if the artist remembers that or not, and also like the size of her claws, like base model, they're big, but I don't really care if an artist draws them small or not, so long as they're dragon claws.
Yeah, and I think that's wonderful as any creative to see how your characters get interpreted through these other lenses as well. I am so gracious that my home game that I run with my friends is full of artists. And so there'll be multiple times during sessions we'll just get like sketch dubs of like and so getting to see my NPCs of like, okay, cool, I didn't envision them like that, but I think that is honestly the better take of this character. And so just going forward, when I picture this character in my mind, that is support artists, folks. Just support artists.
Absolutely. I 100% need to learn how to draw, at least do sketches, because I do love supporting artists. My wallet questions it, though.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've done art in the past on the channel. You can see for the oh god, I can't remember the name of the campaign. It was not Disinherited. Disembodied Ghost. What was the one that we just finished recording? The Abhaile Untold.
Quiet Voices, yeah.
Quiet Voices. I did the art for that one, and it was so fascinating when I was like working with all the two other people of like, hey, how does your character look? And there was a moment where they're like, I didn't envision red for my character, but I really like that design choice. And so yeah, it's fascinating to see how your characters get interpreted through other lenses.
Absolutely. Love when I see it happen.
Yeah. When it comes to your video on character creation, you said the most important part of any character, and we've kind of touched on this before, is making that your character fit the setting. How would you speak to that importance of that being one of your key rules?
So it comes down to so you have the setting, let's call it like a play block box. It's like all Lego bricks and everything like that, and then you try and bring in like a Mega Bloks character, and it's just like they don't really fit aesthetically or fit in the season, and it's just kind of like, well, you have this set, you have these set of rules. Why are you trying to play this game if you don't want to follow the rules? Even if it's like rules that you are making, which is like the most crazy thing to me when someone's just like, I don't think it happens as often with when people make OCs for created media, but like, yeah, you have these rules, and you're not gonna have a robot show up in medieval Europe. And the main thing that I like to go with is like, say you're making a Jujutsu Kaisen OC. If you make it so that they can easily solo Gojo and Sukuna, what is the point other than that? Like, why are you even playing the setting other than to dunk on the series? Like, do you even really like the series if you're doing that? That's like the kind of question I have to ask.
I think that there's also a huge problem with that when it comes to like power games at your table too, of like, if you're trying to do a narrative story, like making sure people are following the rules of what you set in place is kind of like key part. Because I think that also it falls down to like, I think that there's a level of respect that it falls down to. Like, you want to respect the world that either you are playing in, with it being like the play box of like the fictional world of someone else's, or especially if it's a DM that you are playing with, of like, I think that there can be healthy, fun ways of breaking that. Like I've had, or like kind of like trying to push what the boundaries to see what you can do, but also in the way that like if you get a no, you have to stop doing that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like in D&D, any tabletop, it's a bigger situation. Like you are not bringing Bing Bong the Clown Goblin to Baravia.
I mean, I would want to see that, but like if your DM is running an explicitly like gothic horror game, don't bring, unless you're doing like a creepy clown, then maybe.
But even then, you have to talk with the table and the DM, set the ground rules.
Yeah.
That's why you have session 0. And everything has its place. Time.
Truly,
make sure you're aware of it.
I think this is like the #1 rule of the show. We bring this up every episode. It just comes down to communication. Like, if I will read these like Reddit like D&D horror story posts, and 9 times out of 10, I think the problem is communication. The last one is just some kind of like someone who should not be running a game in the first place. That's the last 1%. But like, I think if more people just talked about kind of what's going on at these tables or their expectations from these games, I think there'd be a lot less middle of the game conflict there.
Honestly, you can say that about everything. If
Truly,
people just sat down and talked to each other like goddamn adults, half of the things that happen would not happen.
Yeah, especially when it comes to like writing in these like worlds that are not your own, and in series that have oftentimes deep and oftentimes contradicting lore. At what point are you like, these rules need to stay versus these ones can be bent? Because one of the current series that you're doing on your channel is you're taking either classes that have been vaguely referenced or not completely like fleshed out of what they are in FGO, for example, or in the Fate franchise, for example. The week of recording this, you just dropped your Traveler class video. At what point do you think like some things need to stay still versus what you can playfully bend a little bit?
So, honestly, I think you can bend pretty much anything in a story so long as you don't fully break it.
Yeah.
As far as like with the Fate franchise, because comic books, that probably has like the most lengthy list of contradictions in its series and how it operates.
How many times has Jason Todd died? Like,
the answer is yes.
yeah.
So basically, what I have come down to is that, all right, this doesn't make sense, but this piece of lore does. I will ignore the thing that doesn't make sense and use the other thing to explain the situation. Like, I never make my own answers. I will find answers within the medium and use that to eliminate other answers.
Yeah. I can understand that, of like, because I think that especially in any given work, there's oftentimes enough like wiggle room or enough like questions that have been raised or enough detail that where you can like kind of do the like literary equivalent of an edge guess of how something may or may not work.
Yeah, sometimes it will take like some bending, some stretching, but so long as it doesn't like fully break the narrative, you're fine to ignore contradictions and just stick with what is reasonable based on the context of the series and what information is within the series itself.
Has there ever been a time where you just like flat out did not like how something was explained, so you just like went about it your own way in a way that made sense to you?
So many times. The one that always jumps out to me is the Grail is set up in like, because they say it's like, oh, you can't use Eastern servants, and I get the idea behind it, saying that, oh, it's so that they don't have field advantage, and it's just like, I can understand that, but you also break this rule so many times that I can't imagine that it's an actual damn rule.
Because at least in the original visual novel, like, they break that rule too with Sasaki Kojiro as well.
I can't fault Stay Night too many times for that specifically, because the entire concept of the Grail War in Fate Stay Night, they give you the rundown of how everything works, and then immediately tell you nothing is working like that right now.
Yeah.
So it's a strange introduction to the concept in the series, and in a way, it's great for doing that. I'm more thinking like Shiro Amakusa.
Yes.
Because there was no technical rule breaking outside of summoning an extra class. So the thing is, like, okay, so the Einsburns not only broke the rule of summoning an extra class, but also broke the rule of summoning a Eastern servant, and that part's not really addressed, it's just the extra class part.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, it's just like, do we really want to? And then it also comes down to the whole thing with Fate Redline, because it is said that that is an offshoot of the Third Holy Grail War, but it's a different Third Holy Grail War. And I'm just like, but why?
And if none of this makes sense to you, don't worry. To some of the hardened, most seasoned hardcore Fate fans, it doesn't make sense to us either.
Yeah. So it's like, it just would have been simpler to have the Third Holy Grail War have Oda Nobunaga as the archer in all universes, and then it splits off from there. But again, I do understand the conceit of the idea of no Eastern servants. It's just the execution. It just feels like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Just have it be this. It's still complicated as hell, but it is more concise form of complicated.
I would kill to see, like, just some kind of media set during the Third Holy Grail War, especially because what we know from Apocrypha of, like, Darnik was a key player in that, so that it was happening during World War II, so you had, like, an actual Nazi scientist involved as one of the key players there. Like, it is... I think, like, I truly hope we get to see something set during that someday.
Oh, same. Like, I made a video about explaining as much as I could about the Third Holy Grail War using Fate Apocrypha's information, but also Hollow Ataraxia, which really went into detail. I mostly want to see the assassin, the Hassan of the Third Holy Grail War, because I just want... I'm getting it in Strange Fake, thankfully, but I just want to see a short little man turn a person's brain into gunpowder.
I was like, is that the one? Like, yeah, the bomb head one. That I truly, like. If that sounds cool to you, of, like, hearing a guy who can turn someone's head into a bomb, check out Fate. It's cool. Oh, sorry, what you were gonna say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like, I wonder how many people turned their heads when I said that.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, there's probably someone who is listening to this while doing the dishes, and the people who know Fate in the audience are like, oh yeah, but the people who don't, and this is just like, oh, I'll turn on this video. They're like, what on earth are they talking about? We've kind of on the topic of Fate there. When you're researching a fan servant, or, like, for any other media, how much research for that person do you do?
It honestly genuinely depends. For fan servants, I try to do as much as I can, like, read a bunch of different articles. And admittedly, I probably could and should do more research, but I am a single man with a 9 to 5.
This is your passion project on the side.
Basically, I would love it to be my main thing, but life has other situations for me. But for other things outside of Fate, it honestly depends on how absolutely obsessed I get. Like, some things it'll just like fall like dominoes where I don't really have to do too much research and I just have like an idea in my head and I just run with that. Happened with Jujutsu Kaisen when I had that idea pop up while watching it, and then other things like my Ruby characters, I just like look into a whole bunch of different myths until I find one that I really like, and then read down that list and figure out how I want to shape this character based on the core inspiration.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I like because I also do a lot of fan servant work on my own. A lot of my fan servants are also largely taken from stuff that I am interested in. So, for example, one of like my two like core tenant creators outside of D&D, there's a running joke on the show that I can have a counter of how many times I quote Matt Colville or Brendan Lee Mulligan, which I haven't done this episode yet. We'll see if that remains for the same time. But
I think this counts.
This counts? Oh, dang it. Okay. Crap. Thank you, Body Ghost. But two of my like key creative influences are Jim Henson and also Walt Disney as well. And so in honor of that, I like took my love of that complicated titan of creativity and I wanted to make my own version of him in the own like Fate story that I have running in my brain as well. Or like one of my key like hyperfixations as well is Christian theology. I was someone who was very much raised Catholic and has very complicated feelings about it now, but also like one of the most fascinating things in that was the Garden of Eden. So one of my key characters in that is Archangel Uriel, the person who is set to defend it. And kind of like one of the things I've explored with a lot of that character is like, how would you feel if you had one job and it was to not let anything and you failed at that, and because of it the entire world was doomed essentially by like pain and suffering there. And so I think like another key thing that can be really big for any like hunting down inspiration is using the stuff that you are interested in as a key basis of what you're trying to go for.
Oh yeah, definitely. It all comes from like personal interests because that's where everything is. And sometimes it'll be a new interest that you find and then you just go down a rabbit hole and lose your mind over. And other times it'll be something that you've grew up with from childhood. Like for me it was The Wizard of Oz. I used to watched the original movie when I was younger. I always had a fondness for it. And then very recently I lost my damn mind and have been really, really into it, and it has been a big new source of inspiration for a lot of things.
So what'd you think of Wicked?
I very much enjoyed the two movies.
Yeah.
Very much do.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of The Wizard of Oz mythos as well. I think that like it is the closest thing that America has to a fairy tale of its own. But when it comes, this actually kind of like perfectly leads its way into one of our audience questions here, folks. If you want to answer a question or have something posed on one of the podcasts here, usually day before we are recording, we'll make an announcement in the Discord of some kind, and there's a chance you can have your question answered on this very show as well. So hop down into the towel section down below, check out our Discord there. There's also a chance of we're always running games on there, or just posting memes. So if you want to hang out with us, please join us below. But from @FinikyFox, thank you, Finicky. She said, a lot of people tend to base characters off of that they consume. At what point do you draw the line? You know, when your character feels more like an original character instead of ripping off an existing character. Again, this week you just published the at the time of recording, you just published the Dorothy video or the Traveler class video. How did you draw the line of trying to include what you wanted, but also kind of do your own take on that as well?
Okay, so yeah, that's actually a perfect character for this. But first, let me say, like, in terms of tabletop games, I think that it comes down to person. There are tons of videos about making this character in D&D, for example. So as long as you're having fun and you're talking with the people around you, I think that's fine. But for actual works, or if you don't want a one-to-one character to play with, it does take a bit of doing. I think what you should do is figure out the core elements that you like most about the character and change everything surrounding that you can, but also try to recontextualize the parts you're keeping. Like with Dorothy, what I did is that I completely recontextualized how Oz works. I decided that it was a representation of the swirl of the root. But for a different character, let's take this character, for example. A teenage-looking girl with a playful nature that prefers to shirk work and spend some time with the person that she likes the most, just like always spend time with them, while also being the most powerful draconic entity in the setting. These are core elements of a character that you can enjoy. And this description, in fact, describes both Malim Nava from That Time I Got Reincarnated as Slime and Melusine from Fate Grand Order. Two characters that you would not say are the same character, but can be described similarly. It depends on the context you put them in, how you shift them, and the setting they are a part of. So you can take a character with a lot of the core aspects that you like from one media and be able to shift that while not actually changing those core elements.
Yeah. In the current, like, I'm going to tip my hand a little bit here. In the current, like long running campaign that we have, Legends of Abhaile, the second campaign of that, the current character I'm currently playing is 100% inspired by the specifically a song that I really liked. Of like, I loved the story that song told, and so it's truly like, okay, I really like this story. What would the person who is going through that story be like? If you've not, for the audience listening at home, check out the song "Hell's Coming With Me" by Poor Man's Poison. That's literally just Hunter's entire like idea behind him, and so like finding those inspirations, I love the idea there of finding those inspirations, finding what to keep, and then expanding on those, or like trying to put those into a new setting or mentality there.
Yeah, that. First of all, let me say I love that song.
I love a fiddle. The fiddle is my favorite instrument, and so I love any song that uses the fiddle as like a key part of it.
Yeah, love me a good fiddle. Gotta go down to Georgia sometime.
Yeah.
But with that song, it was like I also have a character. More retroactively, I am inspired by that song for this character, but it's my Avenger servant Olga of Kiev. Like ever since I discovered that song, which was after I created this character, I always have like a music video playing with the events of her story as part going to that song.
Yeah, first there was fire, then there was smoke, and then there was a preacher man who was hanging by a rope. Like, yeah. I honestly, for Olga of Kiev, that makes so much sense for her.
Oh, absolutely! I so want to get
an
piece
animatic
of art. Not even an animatic. I just want the one piece of the "I'm the righteous hand of God," which is her in her like saintly attire. And then I'm the devil that you forgot in her like Avenger mode.
That's cool. That's iconic. Yeah. Again, listen to that song after you're done with this interview, but also just if you've not heard it, listen to it. Poor Man's Poison. There is one of the best Southern gothic folk bands, which is my favorite genre of music.
Yes. It's so fun. I love when songs are stories.
Yeah, yes. I love a good ballad. But I think we but yeah, we were talking like we fully have gone off the rails. But again, that's the point of the show. Yeah, like, do you have anything else to say off of like what you like basing an existing character, basing a character for something off of a pre-existing character there?
I think I got everything I want to say across that. It's just like, yeah, just like take the elements that you like about the character that make them the character, and you just kind of put a new skin on that, because you can have the exact same description for a character while having them be two very different characters. It's a fun exercise in creative writing.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes, this other fan question is from GM of Abhaile. A lot of people tend to have an understanding on how to create a character, but struggle endlessly when it comes to naming. How do you go about naming a character?
Honestly, and I'm going to tip my hat as well here, it is very character dependent. Honestly, it is sometimes just going purely off of vibes.
Yeah.
Other times, I will look down a list of names and their meanings from different cultures until I find something that I feel fits and sounds good. And other times I will find a name that then shapes how the character is. Like, I'll do it in a reverse order. And full disclosure, going off of vibes is not really such a bad thing. My Fate Master OC, Maya Hanagami, purely off of vibes. But as it turns out, in Japanese, you can write her name with the kanji of to dance and arrow. She is a shrine maiden, so she does kagura in order to perform her traditional Japanese magecraft, and she is the master of archer in the story for her. Sometimes vibes will lead you to the perfect answer.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually really cool. Like, I love it when you have those like tiny little crossovers in your mind. For the current character I'm playing in the main thing, I really just went with the name Hunter because, again, it sounded cool and it fit the vibe. But then as I was exploring the character, kind of with the theme of like depersonalization in his story of he's like, well, he like not seeing himself as a real entity and just a means to an end of like, yeah, it makes sense that he wouldn't go by his actual name and he would just see himself as a blunt weapon or an instrument that can be used to like take down something else. Like, and so calling himself Hunter makes sense. And as I'm saying this out loud, I totally just ripped off Archer. As I'm saying, that was completely unintentional. I am saying this out loud, and it is an absolutely, completely accidental rip of Archer.
I don't think it is.
That's fine. It's fine, though. It's perfect. It's a good character archetype, and from the sounds of it, you're doing something pretty different from the existential crisis that is that man.
Oh, yeah, he is. I mean, the existential crisis is happening to him right now, where he's like, being treated like a person for once in his life, and he's being like, hey, wait a second, people are being nice to me and I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, so again, that actually goes back to the last question, where it's just like, you have the same aspect, some of the same aspects, but it's very much a different character.
Oh yeah, and I think that's like, it's very fun to explore there of like, cool, this character that I really like, how would they exist in this setting? Or like, how would they be reacting to something like this? And it's a very fun writing technique that you can use there. I don't think that there's anything bad about taking inspiration, so long as you're not going into like overt plagiarism when you're like copy and pasting a character, or like admitting that when you're based character off something and not like claiming that they're 100% original when you know that you took inspiration from something else.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why I like it started with my other thing saying top off. It's just like, if you want to play a character that already exists, talk with people about that first.
Again, communication of like, hey, I want to play, like being like, hey, I want to play the Hunter from Bloodborne in this game, and people are like, hey, hey, Bloodborne is actively a very triggering thing for me. Can we not do that? Again, just communication is a key part of any form of gaming in the first place, and making sure that everyone at the table is okay with what you're doing as well.
Definitely. Everything is about communication. It's the hardest thing when you're young, but if you're an adult, you got to communicate. We are adults.
Yeah, I have lost many a D&D table because the campaign went kaput because there was some kind of drama and that people weren't communicating clearly. This is not, if you think this is about you, no, it's not. To whoever's listening to this, if you played a D&D game with me, if you think this is about you, it's not.
Yeah, the people aren't in your walls.
Yeah, you're not in my walls. You're not, like, hiding right next to my giant wall of signed prints from different actors and stuff like that. You're not actually there. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are slowly approaching closing time at the tavern here. Is there any other when it comes, like, at the end of the day, when it comes to character creation, what advice would you give to the audience, whether they're basing it off of some kind of existing character or doing something completely original?
Don't make a character to appeal to anyone but yourself. So long as you are happy with the character, that's, at the end of the day, that's what matters most. No matter what opinions that I have about how a character should be made, and no matter how much I think I'm right about that, fundamentally, it is your own personal happiness that matters when you're creating a character. And if that happiness is derived from outside sources, I can't stop you, but I think you should probably check on that.
That's wonderful advice. At the end of the day, character creation is something that is truly personal. You can get advice, but at the end of the day, whatever feels right to you, so long as you're not hurting anybody, I think that is a great idea.
Exactly. Be kind, be happy.
Wonderful, yeah. So when it comes, that leads us perfectly. This is a segment that I have so lovingly stolen from the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast. Essentially, where people talk about what's making them happy this week. Is there anything that you are looking forward to, or something that you are very excited about coming up, or that has happened in the previous week?
So, a few things that I'm excited about to create. I don't want to go into them because I need to get into like a mental space of actually buckling down and actually doing them, which I've been really struggling with. But as for things that have been happening this week, I don't know if happy is quite the correct word, but I've been having fun with it, and I've gotten really back into The Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
Which has, of course, led me into the pit of madness of taking my love for character reinterpretation and creation and just doing that with these characters. I'll be honest, I feel like Brian David Gilbert, but my solution to the time break is serious and my hubris is unpaid for.
Fair enough.
This moment right here, being on this podcast, has been the highlight of my week. I'm going to be fully honest with you.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm very happy. Again, truly for me as well, I'm somebody who, like, I've respected your work for such a long time, so to be able to, like, pick your brain about storytelling and stuff like that has been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and being able to talk with you about stories has been great too. I love bouncing off with other people and hearing other people's perspectives. It's great, and I do hope to be able to work with you again in the future.
Absolutely, yes. On top of that, I'm very excited because next week I'm going to my first con of the year. I'm going to be going to Ohio Con, specifically because I've been invited to host a panel there. I'll be hosting something about Fakemon creation, and I'll be also running my own game of Actually there as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations. I hope you have a great time.
so excited. I'm also very, very hyped too because the David Errol Jr., the voice actor of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, is going to be there. And I love old Disney cartoons so much, and Oswald is wonderful, and I love him. But also for Fate fans, Melissa Fawn, aka Ryder's VA, is going to be there too. And I will be definitely adding some kind of art of Ryder to my Fate shrine as well, that is signed by her.
That's fantastic.
So, Melanie too, the voice actor of Rin, but I've met her in the past. I don't need something signed by her, but she's also genuinely one of the sweetest people of all time.
Yeah, I love every voice actor that I've interacted with personally. Haven't been many, but like a few. They've always been a nice person, and I feel like blessed whenever I interact with them, and they're not an asshole.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say who on stream here, because I don't want to badmouth them, because I think it was just a bad day for them. I've only had two bad interactions with voice actors at conventions in the past, but I think they were either tired, and the other one is a whole other story that I do not want on the internet at all.
Yeah, don't bring that evil here.
I will not bring the evil here. It is closing time. Is there anyone you would like to shout out before we're over for the day?
I would like to shout out every artist I've ever worked with, but that list is too long, and I don't want to play favorites. But I am going to shout out a small YouTube channel called NYC Creator Studio. I have worked with them in the past. They're great people. They do just kind of a bunch of cultural stuff and interactions throughout New York City, and it's been a while since I've worked with them, but I do kind of want to give them the shout.
That's wonderful.
They're great people.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anything else?
That's about it for me. Wishing you all of the best in the audience. Shout out to you guys too, all you creatives. It's been wonderful. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And I guess I'll catch y'all next time in the void.
And it is now closing time at the tavern. Thank you all so much for listening. Again, be good people. Keep telling stories, y'all.
Later.